Well, I gotta get my stool because I always have to sit down. So, good morning. How are you guys doing? Good. So, obviously, there's some good news and some bad news. The bad news is you're stuck with me up here instead of Ross this morning. But the good news is I'm a youth pastor, so I usually keep them shorter. So we'll probably be out of here before noon, which long-winded Ross, that's not always the case. No. So I got a confession to make. Last night, it wasn't really sprung on me this morning. It was kind of sprung on me last night. I was just sitting at home, and I got a text message that Ross wasn't feeling good. And this has happened plenty of times. And believe it or not, Ross is a pretty tough dude because he's come up here and preached when he's sick and throwing up. And I know he looks soft, and the only reason I'm saying that is this is recorded. I know he's going to see it later. But no, he's a pretty tough dude. And so I got that message last night. I'm thinking, he'll be fine. He always does this. And I got it this morning. I woke up. I was about to get up, take a shower, and I hear my phone go, bling. And I turn. I'm like, oh no. But that's all right because, to be honest, I'm a procrastinator, so that probably wouldn't have happened until this morning anyway. So here I am, and for those of you guys who have come to the church, I've been here more than once, you know that we try to incorporate the gospel into everything that we do. It's because the gospel is the whole essence for why we come here. I mean, the whole reason for why I get up and I can go to work every day is because of what Jesus has done in my life, and that's what we try to portray here. And we want to share the gospel for you. So for those of you guys who aren't familiar with the gospel is simple. The gospel is this, is that we were dead. We were sinners, man, and that we had earned an eternity of hell for ourselves. We had this eternal separation from God. Man, he loved us so unconditionally, no matter what, that he sent Jesus into this world, that he'd take that cross for us, that he would take the punishment that I deserve, the punishment that you deserve. And whenever he took that and took that sacrifice, he didn't stay dead. He didn't stay in the grave. Man, he defeated the grave and he rose up and defeated death. And if we put our trust and faith in him, we have eternal life. And the gospel is the whole reason why I want to get up here and speak this morning. Because I feel as a nation, I feel as a people, as a society, I feel like we grow numb to the gospel. We grow numb to the gospel to the fact where we can't even feel it anymore. To where it doesn't move us, it doesn't turn us. You know, and it doesn't affect us as much. And as a society of Christians, that is devastating. When the gospel, the most powerful thing that's ever touched this earth, doesn't move us as a people, man, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. And I feel like, man, to prevent growing numb, I feel like as Christians we have to understand, we have to grasp two things, two concepts. The first concept is the concept of eternity. Forever. What we had earned for ourselves, forever torture and torment in hell. And then the second concept is the magnitude of the sacrifice that set us free from that. Man, whenever you realize that, whenever something clicks, it's like, I was going to go to a bad place forever, but because of the sacrifice of Jesus, man, I'm freed from that. That can move us. That will move you, and that will prevent you from growing numb. That we were dead. We were destined for an eternity of torture. But Christ set us free, and we see this at the end of the Gospels. The end of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you see that Jesus was crucified. And what happened after Jesus was crucified? He had these 12 followers. He had his disciples are with him, 11 at that time, because one of them betrayed him. But so he had these 11 followers, and as soon as Christ was crucified, what happened? They scattered, right? They were scared. They ran with their tails tucked. They didn't want to die. Some dude in, I can't remember which gospel it's in, but they were trying to grab him, and he wrestled out of his clothes, and he ran away naked. Ran away naked. And he was getting out of there. He was running because he was scared. Jesus' most trusted disciple, the most powerful disciple, who first recognized Jesus as Messiah, denied him 3 times. Not once, but 3 times. And not that he even knew him. But luckily, the gospel didn't end there. When Jesus defeated the grave and he rose, man, and they saw the power. They saw the power of God in Jesus. It united the disciples, right? It united the disciples where, man, it didn't matter what happens to us on this earth, there is no turning back. And 10 out of the 11 disciples died some horrific deaths. But one thing remained constant. They never once again tuck tail and run. That is what the gospel is. That is who Jesus is, and he should move in us and stir in our lives. It changed it. It united the disciples. And when you read the Gospels, for those of you guys who haven't read the Gospel, just come to church and you listen to what Ross says, or listen to what I say, or listen to what whoever on TV says. If you haven't read the Gospels for yourself, it's 4 chapters, or it's 4 books long. Open them up and read them. Because one thing is true in those Gospels, that Jesus of the Gospels is completely irresistible. He is entirely irresistible, entirely sincere. I want to read an excerpt from Matthew 9:9. Matthew 9:9, and this is Matthew. This is one of his disciples, and it says, as Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at a tax office and said to him, follow me. So he got up and followed him. First off, for those of you guys who don't know what tax collectors were, at that time, tax collectors were considered the low of the low, the worst of the worst. These tax collectors, they worked for the Roman government. And so what would happen is the Roman government would say, okay, you need to collect taxes. As long as we get our share, I don't care what you do. And so these tax collectors would go out and they would cheat their own people. They would rob them of their own money. They would collect more than the tax that they were supposed to tax. They give the Roman government their share, and then they would collect the rest for themselves. They were crooked. They were deceiving. They were the worst sinners imaginable. And what happened? Jesus saw this man, Matthew, sitting in a tax collector's booth. And he pursued him. And he says, you, follow me. Now, are you guys sinners? Are you guys low? Do you guys deliberately disobey the will that God has for you? I think all of us could say, yeah. I think we're all guilty of that sometimes. I mean, Jesus is still there, standing in front of you, saying, follow me. Follow me, because Jesus pursues us when we are not okay. And it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to not stay not okay. If you guys can follow that. But Jesus pursues us when we are not okay, just as he did Matthew. He didn't say, Matthew, quit being a tax collector. Go get back all the money that you've stolen from people. Go spend, 2 hours a day in prayer for a couple weeks. Come listen to me speak a few times, and then come follow me. No, he didn't do that at all, did he? He went to Jesus, or he went to Matthew where he was at a tax collector's booth, in the sinner's spot, and said, listen, follow me. Just follow me. He pursued him. And so the message of the Gospels are, come messed up, not go clean up. Jesus didn't tell him to go clean up. He said, just come as you are. I want you as you are. And that love is unconditional. I'm going to read on. It says, while he was reclining at the table in the house, many tax collectors and sinners came as guests to eat with Jesus and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? So they had their own category. Not only were they sinners, but they were considered tax collectors and sinners. How bad is that? Tax collectors and sinners. And yet, what did it say? It says, while he was reclining at the table, many other tax collectors and sinners came as guests to eat with Jesus. And so these people that were so far from God, that had nothing to do with God, that were living for themselves, they were attracted to Jesus because Jesus of the Gospels is irresistible. Why don't we see that today? People who are far from God, they are repelled by Jesus today. Why is that? At that time, people were attracted because Jesus of the Gospels, the Jesus in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, is simply irresistible. He's irresistible. And so what did he say whenever the Pharisees said, why does your teacher eat with such tax collectors and sinners? And he heard this and he said, man, the healthy don't need a doctor, the sick do. Right? He's like, I came to save sinners. I didn't come to pat you on the back and say, good job. I came to save sinners. I came to change souls. That's who Jesus of the Gospel was, and that's why sinners were attracted to him. Because he was unconditional love, unconditional forgiveness, and he accepted you as you are. He didn't tell you to go clean up. He doesn't tell you where you're at to go clean up, then come to church. He doesn't say you need to be in church, 9 out of 10 weeks, and then we'll talk about you becoming a Christian. He didn't say that. He said, come as you are, come messed up, not go clean up. Sinners found Christ irresistible, and you might be saying to yourself, Clark, there's all kinds of people that resist Jesus. What are you talking about? Jesus isn't irresistible. I know people who resist Jesus. I know sinners who resist Jesus. But why? Could it be that the Jesus that we often portray is not irresistible? Could that be why? That we've grown numb to what Jesus, the magnitude that Jesus did for us, the debt that we've been forgiven, and that we don't portray that love on the people around us. That, many people, that's the only picture of Jesus they get. They don't come to church. The only picture of Jesus that they get is what you guys show them. Is what we show them. I'm not just preaching. I'm preaching to myself, guys. I don't want it to come off like I'm preaching to you guys. But the Jesus that we often portray is not irresistible, and we're the only picture of Christ that many people see. I got some quotes saved on my phone that I want to share. And they're not happy quotes. One of the quotes is just somebody, anonymous man, that said, if all I had to go by were many of the Christians I've known, the things they have said, the way they have said them, the way my family and I have been treated by those in the church, especially when we needed them the most, I never would have became a Christian. Ouch. That stings a little bit, doesn't it? Man, we have too many people, we have too many self-proclaiming Christians that, yeah, I believe in Jesus, I believe that he's changed my life, and then we live a double standard. We come to church, we put our game face on, our church face on, then we go out and we do whatever we want. We cheat, we lie, we deceive people. And whenever you're wearing the name badge of Christ and you're doing that, people are repelled by that. People don't want any part of it. It says, man, you're a hypocrite. Hypocrites. I hear it too many. I've talked to so many people. I don't come to church because there's too many hypocrites there. It's like, well, you probably don't go to the grocery store. There's hypocrites there. I mean, there's hypocrites everywhere, guys. We're imperfect people. We're sinners saved by grace. Man, the picture that we portray to people of Jesus, man, don't forget, as a Christian, as a self-proclaiming Christian, people around you know that you're a Christian. You wear that cross around your neck, or you have the cross tattoo, whatever it is. Represent who Jesus was. Represent the Jesus of the Gospels. I'm going to share a quote from Gandhi. Yeah, you never thought that would happen in church. A quote from Gandhi, and he says this. He says, people were asking him about Jesus, and he says, I like your Christ. He says, I don't like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ. Ouch. Again. Stings, doesn't it? Man, could it be because we've grown numb to the magnificence of what Jesus did for us? That we use it as, like Ross said last week, a get out of hell free card. It's like, I got my thing with Christ, okay. I got my church life, and then I'm going to go do my own thing and do whatever I want. I mean, it's hurting people, you know? And Gandhi wasn't talking about Jesus when he says, I don't like your Christians. Because he said, I like your Christ, but he says, he's talking about the ones of his, parentheses, followers, the ones that are supposedly following Christ, that treat people unkindly, harshly, rudely, critically, uncharitably, insensitively, impatiently, judgmentally, with unnecessary cruelty, with that I'm better than you arrogance because I go to church on Sundays. With that you're here to serve me attitude, you know, quick to complain when inconvenienced, an unwillingness to ever be wrong, a refusal to turn the other cheek. As I go through that list, you guys might, I know I was, I don't know about you, how many of you guys are a lot of those things at times? A lot of those things. I mean, Jesus was never any of those things, ever, not once. He was never unfriendly. He was never harsh, rude, critical, insensitive, impatient, judgmental. He was never any of those things. You know, my cousin used to be a waiter at Zio's. How many of you guys have eaten at Zio's? Y'all know what Zio's is? It's like an Italian food restaurant. It's good. But he was a waiter there, and he used to always comment on who would do the best tips and the worst tips. He says, man, my worst tippers, my least favorite day of the week is Sundays. He said, the after-church crowd, they come in, they're the rudest customers. They are the most needy, the most arrogant, and they're the worst tippers. He says, I cannot stand the Sunday afternoon church crowd. We got to change something. We got to change something. We do. Because Jesus was never any of those things. And as Christians, we take on the name of Christ and we wear him like a badge. And when we act like that, when we get that persona, it shames Jesus and it repels people away. And when dead people are repelled from Christ, sorry about the cough there. When dead people are repelled from Christ, they stay what? They stay dead, right? They don't find life in Christ, and people are going to be spending an eternity in torture whenever we've had that sacrifice sitting on this pedestal in America where we can freely proclaim. They don't have this liberty in other countries. They have to do this underground everywhere else. But in America, there's no excuse to why people don't hear the true gospel of Jesus Christ. We have that freedom. There is no excuse for it. You know, we need to introduce the real Jesus to people, the real Jesus of the Gospels, the unconditional love of Jesus. Unconditional love. You guys might be thinking, okay, unconditional love. I heard an old wise man once tell me a great analogy of unconditional love. This old wise man, J.W. Fillers, sitting in the back, said, if you want to know what unconditional love is, you need two cars. Two cars with, medium trunks, and you park them back to back. Okay? So you got these two cars, and you park the trunks back to back. He said, you throw your wife in one, and you throw your dog in the other. He said, you come back in 3 hours, and you open the trunk and see which one's happy to see you. That dog's going to be licking you and happy to see you. The wife, I don't even want to know what would happen. Because, to be honest, I probably wouldn't open it. I'd get one of those remotes and I'd open it from a long ways away. But the real kicker is, man, how many of us have shut God in a trunk our whole lives? How many of you guys have slammed that trunk down on God? Man, and if you crack that thing open, you're not going to get the wrath that's coming out of there. You're getting love and kindness, just like that dog. God's going to take you and he's going to embrace you and he's going to hug you. He's going to kiss you. Man, that's who our God is. That's what his unconditional love is. Man, just like the unconditional love of a dog. I have a white lab that showed up on my doorstep whenever I was in college. Just showed up out of nowhere. Little white lab, she's a puppy then, had a little chopped up tail, and when she gets real excited, it wags because there's not much there, so it's like wags real fast like that. She's awesome. I love this dog. This dog is, I don't know what I'm going to do when she dies, to be honest with you. I love this dog with all my heart. This dog is cool. She's beautiful, white lab, and I remember me and Becca we were driving to, anybody know where Table Rock Lake is? Yeah, in Arizona. Not Arizona. Wow, Arkansas. One of those 8 states. Yeah, there's a Table Rock in Arkansas. But we were driving there, and if you go there, anyone who's been there, it's real hilly and like all these real curvy roads. And man, it can make you sick, so you want to take your Dramamine before you go there. But we stopped at this gas station because my wife literally is like a small child. She just pee every 15 miles. And so we stop and we're going to the gas station and we're filling up and she's going in to use the restroom. And I look and there's like this farm looking dude and he's got a flatbed pickup. And there's this dog that looks exactly like Juno, which is my white lab. Beautiful, except for this one had a full tail. But she was sitting, just laying down, just chilling. She wasn't chained up or nothing. She was just laying down and chilling on the truck. And the farmer dude goes in and and I'm waiting on my wife. She comes back out, and about the same time this guy comes out, and he gets his dog, and he chains his dog up. He puts the little rope on his neck and get in the truck, and they start driving down the road. We're going down these hilly roads, and we're following this guy. And this dog had, I don't know, some like Dogzilla toy sitting back there, and it hit a bump, and the thing fell off the flatbed. And this dog jumps off after it, and this rope took its neck, and it's dragging this dog. Man, there's fur and there's skin, and just getting drugged down the road. He's getting just peeled. The skin on this dog is getting peeled off. This dog that reminds me of my dog, this beautiful dog, just getting tortured and drugged through the road. And we're speeding up, we're honking at this guy to get him to stop, and he just keeps going. Keeps going. And we watch this dog get tortured. And I've got a confession. I made that story up.
Oh, good.
But the way that you're moved right now, why does some story about some stupid dog move you more than the gospel of Jesus Christ? About the torture that Christ endured on the cross? Why are we moved more? Is it because we've grown numb to the gospel? Is it because we've grown numb to what Jesus did for us on the cross? I mean, why? Why would we be moved more about what happened to some dog than what happened to our Savior, who freed us from an eternity of hell? You know, when I was in high school, I heard the same story from my youth minister. I had the same reaction, and then it was like, wow. Man, I cared more about some dumb dog than what Jesus' sacrifice did to me at that time. Yeah, don't grow numb to the gospel because it's magnificent. Because of the magnitude of the sacrifice of freedom.